Hello viewers. Today I'll be talking about Electoral System, a comparative perspective. And I am Konkana Sharma, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, Thing College, Nagaon, Assam. So I have divided my presentation into 6 sections. The first section will deal with the very meaning of electoral system. The second section will be taking upon the various types of electoral system, and there are three mainly: first past the post system, proportional representation, and the mixed system. In the third section, the first past the post system will be dealt upon, the various types of it, and advantages and disadvantages of first past the post system will also be studied. In the fourth section, the proportional representation system, its various types, its advantages and disadvantages will be looked upon. In the next section, I will try to compare between first past the post system and proportional representation. And then the conclusion. Now, what is an electoral system? This entails a set of rules that determine how elections are to be considered and how their results are determined. According to Haywood, who writes in 2013, and I quote him, an electoral system is a set of rules that governs the conduct of elections. It includes all aspects of voting. For example, when can an election occur? Who is allowed to vote? Who can stand as a candidate? How ballots are marked and cast? How the ballots are counted? How votes translate into the election outcome? Limits on campaign spending, and other factors that can affect the result. It is defined by constitutions of each country and electoral laws, and are conducted by election commissions and can use multiple types of elections for different offices. As I mentioned in the very introduction, there are mainly three types of electoral system: first past the post system or majoritarian system, second is proportional representation, and the third one is mixed system. In the first past the post system, candidates with the highest number of votes wins, with no requirement to get a majority of votes. It is the second most common electoral system for national legislatures, with almost 58 countries adopting it. It is also the second most common system used for presidential elections, with 19 countries resorting to this electoral system. There are four types of first past the post system: single member plurality system, second ballot system, alternative vote system, and supplementary vote. This electoral system can be used for single and multiple member electoral divisions. In a single member election, the candidate with the highest number of votes is selected. In a multiple member election, its voter casts up to the same number of votes as there are positions to be filled, and those elected are the highest placed candidates corresponding to that number of positions. Here I have tried to illustrate how this very electoral system of first the post election method actually works. If we take into account that a particular state has 100 seats and there are four parties: red, blue, green and yellow. Now, if the red party gets 32 seats, blue gets 30, green 18 and yellow 20. In this scenario, under the FPTP system, red party will win election as it has the highest number of seats, but the voting percentage is less than 50%. Hence, this system is also known as the majoritarian system. The FPTP electoral system comes with its advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of FPTP system is that it is very easy to understand this system, and it also has popular support because it has got legislative sanctity. And supporters of FPTP also argue that use of proportional representation may enable smaller parties to become decisive, and it's a benefit which they otherwise wouldn't have achieved. Hence, FPTP system reduces this possibility. But FPTP system also has its disadvantages. It entails in overrepresentations of larger parties and underrepresentation of smaller parties. Next is, which is very important, that in many cases in FPTP system, the voters resort to a kind of tactical and planned voting, as they have an incentive to vote for a candidate who they predict is most likely to win, as opposed to their preferred candidate who may be unlikely to win and for whom a vote could be considered as wasted. Now coming to the second electoral system, which is the proportional representation system. This refers to an electoral system in which the distribution of seats corresponds closely with the proportion of the total votes cast for each party. For example, if a party gets 40% of the total votes, a perfectly proportional system would allow it to get 40% of the seats. The essence of such systems is that all votes contribute to the result. There are mainly three types of proportional representation: party list PR, single transferable vote, and mixed member PR. In the party list proportional representation system, the political parties define candidate lists and voter vote for a list. The relative vote for each list determines how many candidates from each list are actually elected. Lists can be closed or open. Closed lists are determined before the elections, usually by the party heads or by primary elections. Open lists allow voters to indicate preferences for individual candidates during the elections. The second one is single transferable vote. Here, voters can rank individual candidates rather than just vote for a single best candidate. During the count, as candidates are elected or eliminated, surplus or discarded votes that would otherwise be wasted are transferred to other candidates in order of preferences, forming consensus groups that elect surviving candidates. Single transferable vote enables voters to vote across party lines, to choose the most preferred of a party's candidates and vote for independent candidates, knowing that if the candidate is not elected, their vote will likely not to be wasted. The third system is the mixed member proportional representation system. Here, two-tier mixed electoral system are considered. Voters typically have two votes, one for their single member district and one for the party list. Parties that are underrepresented by district elections are compensated by additional members, such that the total number of members of each party is proportional based on the party list vote. Here is an example of three types of proportional representation. However, there are advantages and disadvantages attached with this electoral system also. Coming to the advantages first, the first one is that it represents all sections of society. Then, all parties have equal representation in this system. It also benefits the regional parties. Under proportional representation, fewer votes are wasted as more people's preferences are taken into account. The next one is that it also offers more choice for voters and it encourages voter turnouts. The disadvantages of PR. The first one is that proportional representation produces weak coalition governments rather than strong majority governments. Second one, proportional representation can reduce accountability to voters. The last but not the least, it is a very complicated process and it is difficult for voters to comprehend such a process. In the mixed electoral system, which is the third system, a combination of FPTP, that is the first past the post system, and proportional representation is done. Here, I have also tried to make a comparative study between first past the post system and proportional representation. In case of first past the post system, the entire country is segregated into various geographical units, which we also known as constituencies. But in case of first past the post system, there are small constituencies. And in case of proportional representation, there are large constituencies. Next, in case of first past the post system, only one representative is elected from each constituency, whereas in case of proportional representation, there can be one or more than one representative. In case of first past the post system, the voters vote for the candidate, whereas in case of proportional representation, the voters vote for the party. In case of first past the post system, votes may or may not be equal to the seats got. But in case of proportional representation, a party gets seats as per the proportion of vote it gets. Here, a map is shown which represents almost all the countries of the globe and the kind of electoral system that these countries have adopted. And as you can see, mostly there are two systems that countries have adopted. One is proportional representation with almost 38%, and then the majoritarian system or the FPTP system with 39% of countries adopting this system. Now, with this comparative study of first past the post system and proportional representation, I have come to the conclusion that it is difficult to say that which system is better because both the system have its pros and cons. Well, every country adopts one system over the other on the basis of their convenience and contextual needs and other factors, with population being one of them. Whichever system a country adopts, preponderance should always be paid to its citizens. That's what matters.